must Jesus bear the cross alone, and all the world go free. No, there's a cross for everyone, and there's a cross. There's a cross. Look at your neighbor, tell him you got one and I got one too. There is a cross for me. Shiloh 21, verse 25. Herein lies the text. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars. And upon the earth there's going to be distress. There'll be distress of nations with perplexity. The sea and the waves roaring. Men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after these things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken, and then shall they see. They're going to see the Son of Man coming in a cloud. You look over at your neighbor and say, he's coming again. With power and great glory. 28th verse. And when these things began to come to pass, then, look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. I'm going to take my subject for this morning's sermonic presentation from this 28th verse. And when these things began to come to pass, the devastating chronologue of events that were enunciated within the previous verses, when you shall see these things transpiring upon the earth, catastrophic happenings of devastating proportion. When you shall see these things, wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes in diverse places. When you shall see these things come to pass, then, what does the text say in verse 28? Then what? That's what I want to talk about today for a subject. Look at your neighbor, tell him, I know there's a lot going on in this world. High inflation, downward economic spiral, oil and gas fluctuations, increased unemployment, devastating foreclosures, personal dilemma, and individual trauma. Man's inhumanity to man, family destruction, gay liberation, same-sex marriages, the demoralization of our society, drug epidemic, high school dropout rate. Look at them, say there's a lot going down. But you, look at them in the face, say, but you, look up. Everybody just quoted one more time the subject, look up. Now look at somebody that looked like they could use a word of encouragement and tell them, did you hear me what I said? Clear your eyes. Wipe that snot away from your nose. And look up. The guide leading his tour group on some narrow ledge of the Alp Mountains or some other high place will say to them, ever so often on the tour, you'll hear him say, do not look down. At the same time, in a high place, those of us who suffer from fear of heights, anybody here suffer from fear of heights? Find it the hardest thing in the world when you're high. I mean, when you're up somewhere high. Look at your neighbor and say, you look like the type that may need an explanation for that word. High places sometimes cause us to be afraid. You see, in a high place, those of us who suffer from fear of heights find it the hardest thing in the world not to look down. Movie makers have many devices and ways in which they build suspense and instill terror in those who watch their pictures. Have you been to the movies lately? I don't think I've been to the movies since, guess who coming to dinner? Sydney was coming, I think, Portier. But tell me at the movies, there is, I think I went one more time since then. Can't remember what I saw, but I went. But I do understand this, that the movie picture makers are able to keep us in suspense concerning high places. See, they do it by honoring devices. They've got devices in which they can kind of drum up fear of heights, which comes from looking down. They will picture someone perched on the narrow ledge of a skyscraper, some building maybe 70 or 80 stories high. This does not frighten us much just to see